About 90% yin this evening, so really sort of nice, easy class to work with. Got a couple of props here, a little bit of water as well, and I'm just going to start off by sitting on blocks. And quite often I sit with the heels in, but this evening I'm going to work on shins crossing and the feet quite a long distance away. And I'm going to sit up nice and tall and just kind of get that pelvis in the right place, lengthen the spine out, and just drop the hands gently onto the thighs and close the eyes then, and soften the jaw. I'm going to take a few deeper breaths. And then we're going to soften that into a belly breath. So we're going to see if we can inhale from the belly first, let that expand. And then feel it gently rise up into the collarbones. And exhaling out. Your breath will be longer usually on the exhale than the inhale, generally. But we're going to see if we can start to take a little bit more control. We're going to see if we can count for 3 coming in and 3 going out. Now the numbers will be inside your own head rather than me counting, because my 3 might be different to yours. Continue with that 3 in, 3 out. Try to avoid squeezing all the air out or lifting the breath in so deeply into the top of the chest that you feel we're going to burst, because that will make the next part of the breath, either in or out, rather fast or desperate. And we want to be slowing the system down and tapping into our vagus nerve. So we're stimulating that in a way by calming it down, by taking control of our breath. Now we'll see if we can start to extend that to the 4 in, 4 out. Just for a moment, we'll neglect to count so that we can cross the legs over the opposite way. You might want to stretch them out first. If that's necessary, that's fine. And then sit back up again. We're going to try and tap into that slow rhythmic breath, but without the counting. So it becomes kind of more of a natural state. And we'll take some neck stretches whilst we're doing this. So we're going to start off by taking the right hand and just dropping the head down towards the right and just laying the arm, or the forearm, onto the head really, so that we start to stretch the neck over, and we're getting this long muscle down the side of the neck into the shoulders, a little bit of a stretch. Now you might find that your right shoulder can tighten up a little bit, because we're almost conscious about pulling our neck too much. But see if you can gradually let weight sink of the arm downwards. And begin to turn those muscles in the deltoids off. And then we'll slowly let that release. And if the muscles are pretty tight, there's almost like a releasing of a spring, and then it's sort of starting to come back and recoiling on itself. We'll take the opposite side. You can use the hand or the forearm to rest and draw down. And we'll let that release. Focusing on our breath, keeping it smooth. We'll continue to work on the neck and work on some half circles. So we're just going to slowly let the chin drop in towards the chest, keeping the spine nice and long. And then slowly inhale the chest over to the left shoulder as you lift. Look out to the side. Exhale it back into the center slowly. Inhale across to the other side. Again, plenty of time for the muscles and the discs to understand where they're moving to, creating a bit of space. And we'll come over again. And then simply come back into the center. Stretch the legs out. Allow yourself to take the hands behind a little bit. Just wriggle out the legs. You can roll the ankles around gently. And then we're going to move into saddle pose, and we need to strap to be close by. So saddle pose is when we're on the knees. You can use a block, a brick, a bolster, or a cushion. As long as the sitting bones have something to find, the knees come together and the feet go wide, and the knees creak a little bit. We'll bring our sitting bones down. And just letting ourselves move into comfortable position. And the shoulders round if that feels good. And then we're going to take that strap. So I'm going to take it into my left hand. You want to make sure that if you're using a strap that has a buckle, that's actually in your fist. So that worst case scenario, if anything slaps you around the head, it's going to be a nice soft piece rather than a hard piece. We'll take that left hand up towards the sky, give it a little bit of a stretch with the strap dangling behind the back. bend at the elbow, and just bring the elbow a little bit more into the center line of the body. So I'm kind of drawing up and then more into the center, opening the shoulder blade out a little bit. And then I'm going to take my right hand down to the floor, just have the palm facing back, and then use that behind and walk fingers up towards each other. Now they may or may not actually touch, it's not a problem. Allow yourself to be in a position where your head is level rather than being forced down by your arms. So you need to make a little bit of space by drawing the elbows out to the side and back a little bit. Again, if you overwork in this pose, you kind of lose the benefit of the stretch. It becomes more of a strengthening and tightening affair. And we really want to be working on the stretching side of this. We don't hold it terribly long, about a minute on each side. The rest of the time is really getting in gently and getting back out. And then we can release from there. Just stretch the arms out, bring them down, and we'll transfer the strap to the opposite side. Take that hand up towards the sky. Strap is behind. Again, just holding onto the elbow, lifting it up, bringing it more into the center. So a bit of a stretch into the chest and the shoulder blades as we do that, when the armpit gets extended out. Left hand comes down, palm facing back, and then we just feed the hand in, walk the fingers up. Could be a lot of difference between one side and the other. Probably explained that many times before. And again, let's make that a little bit of space so the head can be upright, elbows taken out to the side a little bit and up. And then we can gently release out of that. And just let the strap come down. Shoulder shrug if that's going to make you feel better. And then we'll float the arms out wide. And we just bring these arms into an eagle pose. Then I'll bring the left arm across, the right arm over the top. Bring the elbows into a bend to see if I can bring the hands together, or at least find the thumbs. Alternative is to just hold on to the shoulders, kind of like a bear hug. And then we'll let the elbows coming towards the chest. Draw the shoulders back a little bit, just gently. And we'll release the hands out. Take them wide. And then bring the right arm across, the left arm over the top. Just changing things around. Get into a happy place. And use those elbows in and shoulders back. And we'll slowly release. Shake everything out a little bit. And we're going to lift up off of the knees. So just taking our block out of the way. And we're going to move into butterfly pose. So I'm going to sit on a block. And I'm just going to change the viewpoint so you can see what I'm doing from a different direction. So the first thing to do is kind of lengthen those legs out. You might have now gone to sleep a little bit, lack of blood flow. It'll take a few seconds for those to come back. In the meantime, whilst that's happening, which we can kind of let nature take its own course there, we're going to bring the soles of the feet together a distance away from us that allows the knees to sink down easily. It's going to move the flesh out very gently, and then bring the hands inside. Going to lift the body up a little bit and fold over the thighs. Allow myself to come forwards, and then very slowly let the head come down. So we're going to be here for a couple of minutes. Now you can place the hands wherever it feels comfortable. If you can, pay a little bit of attention to the shoulders being broad rather than wrapping around the body, because that kind of restricts the breath a little bit. You can experiment with where the feet sit in terms of how close or far away, and also how well you're able to let the head drop down. How deeply can you let that chin come in towards your chest? Now, breathing is somewhat different here as the diaphragm's compressed. We're still trying to find that smoothness to the breath, even though it will feel like it's more in the shoulders and the back of the ribs. Use the strength of the diaphragm and the breath to open up those intercostal muscles surrounding the rib cage. I'll take a little breath, bring the hands out in front, lift the head slowly, ease our way back up. We're going to transfer ourselves from full butterfly, just bringing the knees in and taking the legs out, into half butterflies. So we'll take the legs out nice and wide and draw that left heel in. Take the fingers about shoulder distance apart, we'll hinge over and let ourselves walk the hands forwards. Now you will find that significantly different because the legs hanging out to the side. If the foot wants to kind of roll off to the side, let it. If you notice your body kind of hangs out to the side, the opposite side of the leg, that's okay as well. This is not about trying to get to any particular place. It's about finding a place that is comfortable, easy to sit in, easy to breathe in. So plenty of things for your mind to focus on in the body, so you can be very present. And let the outside world carry on without you. And we'll walk the hands back in. And we'll let ourselves transfer over to the other side. So we can use the hand behind the leg to lift it up. Use the other hand to kind of let the other leg out as well. Take a moment just to kind of wriggle around, get the sitting bones comfortable. Find what is the happy position for that leg. Give it a chance to kind of find its own place. And then when you think you're ready, just take the hands forwards and roll it in with a big exhale. And quite lightly, it will feel different on this side. Memory of how it felt when you finished on the previous side is still fresh in the mind. See if you can let go of that. Consider how it feels in this pose on this side, in this moment. And ease ourselves out of that pose. For this side, bring the leg back in. And we're going to move ourselves down onto the floor for an old favorite of mine, but not necessarily anybody else's. If you have a dodgy shoulder that you're working with, or frozen shoulders or anything like that, do be careful, because this is going to be a couple of big stretches. Again, work within your own limits and listen to your own body. You're going to lie down onto the floor, allow the feet to come together on the center line. And I'm going to take my right hand out to the side, lay the chest down on the floor, and then I'm going to roll onto the side of my body. So I'm going to walk the right hand out a little bit, have the legs on top of each other. I'm going to bring the left hand kind of in front of the chest and away enough so it's easy to press down. And then just to help keep the hips in the same place, we draw the top leg, or the top foot along the leg, and then just place that in front a little bit. So the knee points up towards the sky in a comfortable position. I'm not trying to do anything clever with it. Do you want to try and keep the head in line with the rest of the body? It's easy to inadvertently start looking down towards the toes and dropping the head in, chin in towards the chest. You really want to be looking out to the side. Palm is face down. And just find a comfortable stretch in the shoulders. So depending on where your shoulders, chest are tight, and the general sort of well-being of your shoulders, that might be different from side to side. It might not be where you think you're going to be, but it is what you need to work with. And then we'll slowly let ourselves roll down to the opposite side. So we'll bring the chest back down onto the floor. Take a little time to wiggle the fingers out to the side till it feels like the blood has come back into the shoulder. It felt a bit sleepy. And then we just take ourselves the opposite way, so that left hand goes out. Roll onto our sides, walk the fingers out a little bit further, so that's all quite nice, 90 degrees-ish. Legs are down the center line of the mat. You can see a little more easily where my hand is now. It's right off the edge of the mat. And just sliding that top foot down the leg into a comfortable place, just to help keep the hips more in line with the chest. So we're not putting undue pressure into the lower back or creating a twist in the spine. We're trying to keep everything neutral. Shoulders, chest, hips all pointing in the same direction. And then we'll bring ourselves back. So just lengthen the leg out, roll onto the chest, just wriggle the fingers out a little bit. And then we're going to lift ourselves up. So we're pretty much going to lift up onto the elbows. And we're going to cross the arms over. So it's that our bestest friend in terms of shoulder stretches. It's big and strong, to say the least. Have the head, chest lift a little bit, have the hands out in front, that's shoulder distance apart. So we're not trying to lift super high, it's just a comfortable distance to allow us to take that left hand underneath and out to the right side, 90 degrees to the body. And that feels fairly easy and comfortable. Walk the right hand over to the left side. Now, bend the elbow 180 degrees. And then we'll just let the chin and the chest sink down. And I suspect that at this point you can't really hear anything. I think I'm sitting on top of the microphone. But don't panic, I will move when it's time to come out. We'll see if you can breathe into the back of the shoulder blade, right into the center, into the spine. So we're going to get a nice stretch. And to come out of that, simply lift the chest a little bit. Start to walk the right hand out to the front. So we've still got that little bit of a lift. And we can unpeel the left hand. Take a moment to breathe, make sure we're happy. Use the right hand out, right across the body. Walk the left hand over. Let ourselves sink. And then sort of play with any resistance you find in your body. See if you can let yourself relax into the pose. Let the shoulders actually move down towards the hips a little bit. Without actually pushing them, just see if you can let them move in that direction. It gives you a little bit more space around the neck to breathe and swallow. So again, we'll lift the chest a little. Draw the right hand out. And we're going to come straight into Sphinx pose because we're almost there. So we'll just bring the elbows in a little bit. Forearms down or palms up, your choice. We're going to see if we can let the shoulders relax back a little bit. And then just let the chest and the body kind of sink through the shoulders. So the shoulders stay pretty much where they are. Body drops down and I guess the shoulders get a little closer to the ears. So the bend in the spine, the lower back, the compression is very light, hopefully. We can start to let all those deep muscles in the lower back release, including the depths of and layers almost that we find in the glutes, down the back of the legs. Very relaxed belly. You can take the breath into the belly. It should be easy to find. Head position is really up to you. It's considered if you drop the head that you stretch the neck muscles and therefore actually put more strain into them. But it can feel quite awkward if you spend a lot of your time of your life looking down, working on laptops, computers, etc. It gets difficult for that to be a normal feeling looking straight ahead. So it might be that you need to find somewhere in between, sort of a suitable compromise for yourself. Got about another minute here, so plenty of time to explore. So we'll begin to move from this pose. I actually like to let myself sink back down to the floor, draw the knees in towards the body, bring the elbows in a little bit more into that fetal position so it's very easy to push up from the ground. Now we're going to change positions, so we're taking the head towards the back of the mat, but I'm going to kind of preempt where I need my props for a little bit later on. So I'm going to take my 2 bricks and my block towards the back of the mat and lengthen the legs out. They come into the pose. I'm going to just have the knees high, feet apart, hands behind, and rest myself down. You need to have enough room behind you to come into the pose that we call banana pose. You might need to shuffle around a little bit. And allow yourself to lengthen the spine out so you can have a wriggle through the hips and the shoulders. And take the hands up towards the sky. Allow yourself to take hold of your left wrist, drop the hands overhead towards the ground. And then we'll wriggle the shoulders over to our right side so we get a little bit of a lateral bend into the spine. You can lengthen the legs out very gently down the center line of the mat and then bring them also over to the right side. And I'm turning the head to the right as well. Try and relax the shoulders around. I've still got options here to kind of move around and wriggle into the pose. If you wish to, you can cross the ankles. So it will be left over right. You want to make sure that you keep shoulder blades a pair of them on the ground, and also the two halves of the hips, on the right and the left. We'll come back into the center. Leave the hands down by the side of the body, bring the feet back into the center line. Just again have a little wriggle out. Noticing the difference now between how one side of the body feels and the other, quite dramatic. And we're going to take the hands up towards the sky. As we do, we'll take hold of that right wrist with the left hand. Wriggle over the shoulders to the left side. Find a nice comfortable place for us to be in, so it's still easy to breathe, even though we've got a big stretch through the armpits, down the side of the body. And we can start to take the legs out to the left as well. And noticing that I keep the legs on the ground to start with, I really want a good sort of 5 or 6 of my own breaths to assess how my back feels from one side to the other, and also how easy it is for me to keep my pelvis, hips squared to the ground, and also the shoulder blades. So if I'm a little bit tighter than I expected, or I might have moved a little further than I thought I was going to, gives me an opportunity to kind of calibrate the pose for myself and work out what I want to move or what I don't want to move. So that's why there's a, like I say, a good 5 or 6 breaths before you do actually take that decision. We can become accustomed to moving because we know that that's what we do. And the pose and the practice is about feeling how we feel now, not remembering something from the past, or trying to decide that we want to get to a particular place in the pose. There's a certain level of restraint needed. Let's go a few more breaths here. We'll bring ourselves back into the center. And then once you've done that, allow yourself to bring your feet in a little closer towards your body. We're going to draw eventually the knees in towards ourselves and take the knees out wide, keeping the toes together. It's called the stirrup pose. Now you can take the block or a cushion underneath the back of the head. I find for myself a brick is just a little bit too high, but it does depend on what type of style of brick you've got, I guess. I'm going to slide the hands down the shins towards the ankles, and rather than reaching all the way around the outside edge of the foot, I'm just going to hold the shin ankle portion of the legs, just letting the spine hang out, getting used to the sensation of my tailbone being on the floor. Now, once I've got that kind of embedded in, I'm just going to allow my soles of the feet to move towards the sky. It's going to be a little wider than the shoulders, to say the least. And I'm still trying to retain that tailbone on the floor feeling. Now, if I've kind of over-egged it and put the hands too close towards the ankles, or attempted to take hold of the feet, and my body really isn't ready for that, then the consequence of that would be that the tailbone would lift off the floor. You're starting to get more of a rounded back. You might even find that your chin kind of lifts aggressively towards the back of the mat. So those things are what we try to avoid. We want to just let the weight of the legs and the arms draw the knees downwards, the soles of the feet towards the sky. Nice wide stance, long spine, easy neck, soft jaw. And then we'll let the legs come back down. So just release one leg at a time. We'll keep the block under the back of the head, and we'll take the arms out gently to the sides. We're going to zigzag the toes back in towards the center line a little bit. And when you're ready, you're going to lift the left leg up and just wrap that leg around and see if you can bring your foot underneath the calf. So some people can get there very easily. For some people, it's like not going to happen. That's the kind of position we're looking in. We're going to just move the hips over towards the left a little bit and then let both legs roll down to the right side. You can play around a little bit with where you end up. And we're going to be here for a few minutes. So we're kind of using the weight of the lower leg to draw this top leg down and get more of a stretch around the outside of the hip bone on the outer side. So it's almost running into the TFL and into the glutes at the same time. Shoulders are flat to the floor. You can look the opposite way or to the sky. And try and let the front of the chest relax. So the shoulders are just sitting down on the floor by themselves, not even realizing that you're in a pose. And we'll bring ourselves back again. And just bring the hips back in first. To the center line, untangle the legs, reset. A little chance to shake everything out. And then we'll take the legs and cross them over. Wrap around if you're able to. As close as you can get without feeling like something's going to snap or gritting your teeth. And taking the hips over to the right a little, we can ease the legs down to the left. You might get the old creak or crack in the spine as you go down. A little bit of gapping. Allow your mind to connect into the areas of your body that find this to be holding any tension. For me, it's around the sort of top side of the glute, into the lower back, and across that hip, down the TFL area. Those are the parts in my body that I need to focus my mind in. Yours might be the same or different. But if you do find resistance, see if you can breathe into it. As someone used to say, feel the force. We'll ease our legs back to the center, untangle, shake everything out. We're going to lift up gently and come into a squatting position. So I like to roll onto my right side, use the hands to lift up. And I'm going to take the block sort of into the middle of the mat. Just lift up gently. Trying to manhandle myself in. And sitting tall. So the toes point out, knees point out. Hopefully the shoulders are nice and relaxed. Getting head position really of choice. Again, looking for that settled breath. For many of us, the ligaments across the front of the ankles here are going to be tight. And I kind of get a burning sensation there. I'm not sure that it ever goes away if you are tight in that area. You just become more accomplished at bearing with it, which in itself is a kind of an art form of being able to settle when you're not necessarily in your favorite place. I'm going to let myself take the hands forwards. I'm going to take one down dog. So I'm just going to draw the fingers up to the front of the mat. Lift the hips. Allow myself to take the feet back. Just going to move the block off to the side. And stretch the legs out a little bit. Just some gentle, slow pedaling. It's a comfortable, friendly dog, this one. That's what we're looking for. I thought I'd describe down dog as a comfortable, friendly dog, but there are different types of dogs, so this is the way to describe it. And then we'll let the knees come back down to the floor. We're going to move into bridge pose, but it's a supportive version. Now I know that if I take my block and my 2 bricks on top, that is just the right height for my back to allow it to be very restorative. But you could be just using 1 small block or even a rolled up blanket or something like that. So whatever feels like where you want to be this evening, allow yourself to have the knees high, roll the spine down using a little bit of support. When the head is on the ground and you've got yourself nicely untangled, take the feet a little wider than the hips, so a slightly stranger version of bridge pose. You press down into the feet and lift the hips up slowly and slide your blocks. Now you can either do that in one big swoop, or you can take it up sort of a step at a time. Take a minute, build on it, and find out where it feels comfortable. If you really know what your body likes, this is an opportunity to come straight into it. But you want to make sure that your blocks, use your fingertips to make sure whatever you're using underneath is well stacked and safe. They're going to slide off from underneath you. And then my feet are now sort of getting to the point where they're a little wider than the mat, and then the knees can move in towards the center line. This allows the hip flexors to open up in a quite specific and different way to how they ever get to be when you're standing up and around or sitting at a desk. So this is a nice sensation. I'm looking to let the belly muscles and the lower back muscles particularly relax down and find confidence in the props I'm using, and then just letting the hands come out to the side. Palms facing up if you wish. We're going to take our last 5 slow breaths here. And then we'll take a deeper breath. On the exhale, we'll draw the belly muscles in a little more. keeping the belly drawn in, press into the feet. Allow yourself to lift just enough to take one block out at a time, and then lower down towards the floor, slowly. As you arrive on the block, take another breath, hold there, and then lift the next block out. And keep doing that until you get down towards the ground, which generally feels like it's a lot further away than you remember it ever being. And then you slide, once you're safe, a foot to each corner, just sliding the heels out down the mat. So there's no sudden movements in the spine or the lower back muscles. You keep it very relaxed. And then just simply letting the legs rock out to the sides, hands to the side of the body as well. So final relaxation pose. Allow yourself to lick your lips a couple of times. Take the muscles in the face, and particularly around the eyes, feel relaxed. Actually get a sense of your whole body sinking into the floor and making contact, becoming softer. Turning yourself into very much an object that yields down with gravity. And we'll begin to stretch the fingers and toes. Maybe start to breathe a little more into the chest. Interwiggle those wrists and ankles. Use the breath to allow yourself to stretch out in any way that feels good. And then begin to draw the knees in towards the body. And slowly let yourself roll onto your right side. Just stay there for a few breaths, about 3 or 4 of your breaths. And try and let yourself relax with those breaths taking place. And then finally, using your hands when you're ready to press down into the floor to lift back up to a seated posture, which can take any shape and form that feels comfortable, just using your props as you wish. Allow yourself to lengthen the spine and roll the shoulders back a little bit as you wriggle out the neck for the last time. And then bring your hands into your heart as you take a deeper breath with the eyes closed. You slowly exhale, letting the chin drop, and then bowing down to the floor as the belly draws into the spine, sealing your practice for the evening. And on the inhale, let the breath build the spine for you until it finally lifts the head. Allow the eyes to open. Namaste. Thank you for joining me this evening.